men and history. The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is. Winston Churchill, Dave Harrington. Now, as you know, Tucker Carlson parted ways with Fox. After he left, he gave a message. We're going to read that message now. Let's read it and make a few comments. At this time, I'd like to invite you to subscribe so that you can help us build better, stronger men. Good evening. It's Tucker Carlson. One of the first things you realize when you step outside the noise for a few days is how many genuinely nice people there are in this country. Kind and decent people. People who really care about what's true. Nice way to open, and notice what he starts with. Care about what's true. That's why I started with that Churchill quote. Because the truth is so important today. And under such an attack. Let's go on, though. He goes on. And this is so Tucker now. And a bunch of hilarious people also. A lot of those. It's got to be the majority of the population even now. So that's heartening. So you have the numbers. They do not. The network, the factions, whatever you want to call it, the so-called elites, Marxist, communist, progressive, leftist, whatever you want to call it, those factions. You have the majority. He goes on. The other thing you notice when you take a little time off is how unbelievably stupid most of the debates you see on television are. They're completely irrelevant. They mean nothing. In 5 years, we won't even remember we had them. Trust me, as someone who's participated. So there he goes, knocking the media, right? Knocking their, what they do, knocking that it is not that meaningful, that what they say and mean and do isn't that meaningful, doesn't contribute that much, and that you won't even remember it because it's so meaningless. Why is that? And we've talked about this before, right? Why are there no debates? But let's go on. Actually, we've talked about it. Why are there no debates? Because they want to control what you hear and say, right? Why would they want to debate about real gun control where John Locke can go out, or where you can just simply talk about the Second Amendment and why it was written, why George Mason had it in, but I don't want to go there. But do they want a real debate on gun control? No, they just want the guns gone. So you can't stand up to them. They want control, and they want to hear what you want to control what you hear, right? Back to Tucker, and at the same time, and this is the amazing thing, the undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, and this is so true, get virtually no discussion at all. I mean, we've talked about this so many times. We do it in the groups. We'll sit there for 6-7 hours, talk about the real topics, debate it. Get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties. We know why, don't we? Emergent science, demographic change, corporate power, natural resources. When was the last time you heard a legitimate debate about any of these issues? Think about it and reflect right now. When was the last time you did? Why would the faction or the powers that be or whoever's in command want you to hear, or be able to speak, have discussions? You saw it shut down. You saw what they wanted to cut off, the churches, the discussions, the assembly, right? If you want to cut off, you saw them shutting people off social media accounts. Why? So you couldn't get the truth out. So you couldn't ask questions. So you couldn't raise, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. How about this? So you couldn't show the inconsistencies. Only for thee, not for me, right? So if they want to push their agenda, they pick what's covered. If it meets their needs and their agenda and their goals for control power, right? Their narrative is what? About them, not you. So by the way, they don't like people like Tucker going against the narrative, right? Or anyone going against the narrative. You saw it. You saw how they wanted to shut down free speech. When we say they, again, we're talking about those factions that want more power control, those factions that shut it down, the so-called elites, and you know who they are. What makes them money? Where do they get the power from? What are their interests? You know, why would the neocons want you actually debating why America should go to war? George Washington said, beware of foreign entanglements. They probably don't even want that speech heard. We're going to go back to that part again. We'll come back. We did George Washington's inauguration. We did his morals and debt. And by the way, in wars cost what? Money and debt, and we don't have any. So you want to send money to Ukraine, let's have a real debate on it. Why? Why do you want to raise the price of butter and eggs and energy for Americans? And how does that protect the women and children of America and the interest of America to be over there? Have a debate on it. It doesn't. It damages the economy and makes things more expensive for you. It ran up the price of your goods, all this spending. They spent another $1.7 trillion. Where was the debate on that last December? So, military industrial complex, pharma complex that probably doesn't want you debating if this is good or good, not good for you, right? Or if this cheap product is better and free. They'll pick what you get to hear, what you get to talk about. Science. If an opinion does not fit the narrative of the network or establishment of the powers, what happens? Can't talk about it, right? Silence the person, destroy the person, right? Attack the person, make sure they don't have a voice. It goes on. It's been a long time. Debates like that are not permitted in American media. Both political parties and their donors have reached consensus on what benefits who? Them. And they actively collude to shut down any conversation about it. You saw it, right? You saw that. The Uniparty, the establishment. We Spend Less became a joke among Republicans about who say they're conservatives. We spend less was the argument against. But remember, Uniparty, establishment, don't look at it as Democrats and Republicans. We've talked about this before. Who's protecting your life, liberty, and property? And who's protecting their own life, liberty, and property? They're supposed to be servants. The establishment, the Uniparty of Republicans and Democrats. Remember, both parties were in favor, most of the parties, and passed with both support for Ukraine. 17 Republican senators supported that $1.7 trillion December bill. So then what happens? The price of your goods you like goes up, right? Inflation. Bailouts, Uniparty. So if you look through the donors and the political parties, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, the people who believe they're better than you, the so-called elites, why do they push certain ideas? For themselves, right? For their benefit. Many of them. Some of them probably mean it. Look, we don't know their hearts. However, many people probably at the bottom mean it. Some people probably mean it. I don't know. But certainly the way you saw them behave and the way they didn't follow their own rules, you know it wasn't for the good of you because they didn't even follow it. If they don't follow it, they don't mean it, right? And if you want to control everything, you don't want information to get out. And you saw the way they shut down information, the way they didn't want to let you get to hear information. So if you're shutting that down, it's probably not for you, right? For you to be able to make your own decision, for you to be able to have free will. And it doesn't support the First Amendment if the government is directing Twitter or somebody to shut something down, right? That's breaking the First Amendment. So that is certainly opposed to you. It's opposed to the Constitution, and it's not good for the Republic in the United States. Going on. This moment is too inherently ridiculous to continue, and so it won't. You can just hear Tucker's voice right now. The people in charge know this, and that's why they're hysterical and aggressive. They're afraid. They've given up persuasion. What do you resort to next? They're resorting to force. True, they're showing themselves more and more and trying to force things on you instead of persuade you. Mandates, masks, facts, all this are forced. Shutting down free speech, telling Twitter what to do. They're trying to force their way, cut you off from information That's all true. They work for you, but they don't realize it, or they don't want that. They know it, but they don't care, right? So individuals are different. They're up there for different reasons. So we won't lump them all together, but there are certain factions and elements driving all of this, right? But he goes on, but it won't work. When honest people say what's true calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful. And this is true. When you speak the truth, you become powerful. Truth is incredibly powerful. Remember Pilate saying to Jesus, "What is truth?" That was a very powerful moment. That's why they work so hard to shut you down. That's the why. Why do they have to work so hard to shut you down? If you're not a threat, you are a threat. Truth is the threat. You are the threat to their power, to their control over you. Remember how upset they were for Elon Musk taking over Twitter? Why? They had every single outlet, those factions. Those factions, and what are those factions standing for? The powers that be, the factions that wanted their ways followed. So upset with Elon Musk standing for free speech on Twitter. Just giving people who believe different things a voice and a place to go have a town hall. An actual U.S. rep called for Tucker to be shut down and taken off the air days before they parted ways. Of course, that would be officially breaking the First Amendment if the federal government removed him, right? That's not in their powers because of the First Amendment. At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink and they become weaker. That's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail. Where can you still find Americans saying true things? There aren't many places left, but there are some, and that's enough. As long as you can hear the words, there's hope. See you soon. So that was a good message. And here is where you come in. Because we've talked a lot about truth, and what I'm talking about when I say truth. Truth on the big issues. Truth on not letting them change, those factions change the language. When honest people say what's true calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful, he says. So you are more powerful than you think. That's why they took such pains, we talked about it, to shut you down, shut your friends down, shut your churches down. One person, you as one person standing for the truth at a small meeting, at a school board, at a city council meeting, at a grocery store, at a cigar bar, or anywhere can have a large impact by stating just the simple truth. You will get more powerful and they will get weaker, he says. And I believe that. He also goes on to say there are not many places. So make the places where you are places of truth. And think about when you hear truth, it emboldens you probably, right? Probably emboldened you past the last 3 years when you heard someone standing for the truth. And you can be that person for someone else tomorrow, the next week, wherever you go. You may think that these large institutions, these powerful people, have so much power than you do, but there's more of you. There's more of you. And the truth prevails. So let them hear you. Let them be afraid of you. Let peacefully speak the truth. And think of how much you can accomplish and have an impact and make a difference by just speaking the truth. By saying a few words, you can have a difference. You can have an impact. You can make a difference. And don't let those factions, the Marxists, the communists, the progressives, the leftists, the woke, change our words. Our language is important. It's important that we fight for the language and stand for it peacefully. Example, a man is a man, a woman is a woman, men can't have periods, men can't get pregnant. We need to stand for that. You need to stand for it wherever you go. because that's the truth. Two sexes, male and female, that's it. That's a truth. It's a self-evident truth. You can see the differences, and they're beautiful, right? And they complement each other. It's also how we get along better, because men and women complement each other. And we're attracted to the opposite. Manly men are attracted to feminine women. There are differences. That's a truth in men and women. We can celebrate that. So go out this week, next month. Here's your action step. Wherever you're at, grocery store or town meeting, city council, if you go out and stand for the truth, you'll make a difference. You can have the impact. It's not up to them up in Washington. It's up to you, up to me, to speak the truth. And we'll end with this. George Washington said it. Truth will ultimately prevail, whether it's pains to bring it to light. So bring it to light on words, languages, and the truth of those large issues that we are standing up for. If you believe in building stronger men, better thinkers, groups of men, please like it, because when you like it, that helps YouTube pass it around, Rumble pass it around. So just get it around there. Thank you and have a magnificent day.